Hello, hello. Welcome everyone to our second The Baby Monitor Talks. And oh, I was just checking on YouTube to see that it was working and I heard myself and it freaked me out. So it's working on YouTube. And I also got a reminder on my Facebook. It is happening everywhere, telling us that we are live and that we are here. My name is Antonio Miniño. My pronouns are they, them. I am one of the creative partners at Different Translation. I am also the director of The Baby Monitor, written by David Stallings. And we haven't announced a full cast yet for this edition, but I will be playing the role of Philip once more, like I did in Dublin and in Belgrade. So those are all the hyphens that I need to share right now. And I am here with the amazing, the wonderful, Anne Marie, who is also one of the creative partners. Anne Marie, welcome to our Baby Monitor Talks.
Thank you. So good to be here.
Yay! We actually had a great staff meeting today where we talked about highs and lows of just being a human in this day and age. So something that I usually like, I didn't get to do on the first Baby Monitor Talks, but I always do when we start a meeting, is to just do a check-in with ourselves. And I invite anyone who's watching now or watching later to do a quick check-in. And we're just going to do some breath work and to see where we are in this moment. So I invite you to close your eyes or gaze at the floor. And we're just going to take a couple of breaths together. So breathe in, 2, 3, 4, and hold, 2, 3, 4, and exhale. 2, 3, 4. Beautiful. And then I just want everyone that is here in this moment or in the future to think of a number between 1 and 10, just to see where you are. 1 being, I feel kind of not great today. And 10 being, I am full on Lizzo level of feeling my full self. And just see where you are between 1 and 10. And just knowing what that number is so powerful. It doesn't matter where it is on the scale. It's about knowing where you are. Beautiful. We'll just take a couple of more breaths together. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4, and hold, 2, 3, 4, and exhale. 2, 3, 4. Nice. And now what I want you to do when you open your eyes or lift your gaze from the floor and share this time with us is to bring your full self into this space wherever you are. Just bring your full self, your full intersectionality, everything that makes you who you are. Be here in this moment and just love it. And with that, open your eyes when you're ready or lift your gaze from the floor. Welcome, welcome. Something I didn't mention is that, and we'll talk about it, it's one of the questions we have prepped, is that Anne Marie is serving as our tour manager this time around. And boy, oh boy, is that a lot. We're so grateful. So, and we're going to start right away with one of the first things that everyone wants to know, especially me, is why do you love the Baby Monitor so much?
Oh my gosh. There are so many reasons why I love this play. I'm going to maybe highlight a couple of them. One thing I love is the characters. David writes very complicated, nuanced characters. There's no hero. There's no one who doesn't have there's no perfect person. There's no one who doesn't have a flaw of some type that gets explored. And I find that makes the characters real. Yeah, that they don't sit on a pedestal where there's some perfect ray of light and some pure evil, that good versus evil situation. It's everyone is a mix of all these emotions and sometimes does the right thing and sometimes doesn't do the right thing or says the right thing or doesn't say the right thing. And that's all mixed up into each individual character. And that's humanity, right? That's real people can resonate with that. and can really connect to the characters in that way. So that's one thing I really love. Getting to know each character in the play is like, I describe David's plays in general as the unfolding of an onion, like the delayering, and you learn about the characters over time, and another layer is revealed and another layer is revealed. And as someone who comes from a psychological background, I find that very compelling to see that psychology on the stage. So that's one thing that really draws me into the play. Another thing that draws me in is I like plays about issues. And this play covers so many social issues. I mean, it is fun to go to theater and have some brain candy. There's nothing wrong with that. We all need that sometimes. But I really like to be challenged. So if people enjoy being pushed a little bit, being maybe pushed out of their comfort zone, or maybe learning something new about a social issue, this play does that. It covers so many issues, right? It covers discrimination faced by gay couples, the discrimination faced by biracial gay couples, and then biracial gay couples who are trying to raise a child. It raises up the debates about surrogacy and the complications that arise between the parties involved in making that kind of heavy decision. It tackles colorism and the layers that appear there. One thing I really love about the play is its use of Spanish. I have a Colombian American background. I loved how much Spanish was in this play, and that evolved over time too. I remember we sat in a table read. It was a private read to get some feedback amongst people. I remember one of the persons in the cold read mentioned that it felt like they got lost. There was too much Spanish. They didn't get what was happening. And in that moment, I was like, but that's the point. It's the point of feeling that otherness in the moment. And I even said, I think we actually could use some more Spanish. And Mommy, don't listen to this. I said, you could probably drop a few more coños in there. And I love that was edited in. Like, there's a few more coños in the play now. And I think it just, again, made it real and tangible. And even if you're not fluent or well-versed in Spanish, you can get the emotional content even without it, with the simultaneous feeling a little left out, but also getting that emotional energy. And I think that is critical to the play, to feel that. So that's another thing I love about the play. So yeah, characters, issues, and a little bit of Espanol.
Nice, beautiful. So I want to do a rapid fire with you. This is not planned, but since you said that the characters are the things that, or what the elements that really are juicy for you, really hot when it comes to this play. So I'm going to mention a character, and you're going to just first word that comes to mind.
Oh boy. All right, it's like a psychological test, like a Rorschach.
Yes. Thank you, Brene Brown, for your rapid tests in your podcast. I always have to credit Brene because I'm such a fan. All right, here we go. Dun, 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 dun. Shelley.
Oh, fierce.
Fierce. And I'm writing all these down.
We can share it with the cast later.
We'd share with the cast. Needs to like live in the rehearsal room. Shelley Fierce. Yes. Yeah.
Claire. She's I feel like she's, I don't want to just say complicated, but she's struggling. She's got struggles. She's struggling.
I love that. Soledad.
Sassy.
All right. Damon.
Oh, Damon. He's got his opinions.
Okay, opinionated. All right.
A little bit.
Yes. Josh.
He's a pacifist.
Beautiful. Philip.
Philip is open. I get just the sense of openness. He's open.
Beautiful. Awesome. I didn't miss anyone. Yes.
No, yeah, that's the whole thing. You know what I have to add? I think this is just kind of like, if I didn't answer that question about what I love about the play, or how much I love the play. I think one behavioral way of knowing how much I love the play is that I drop quotes from the play all the time. I just had brunch with a friend just a few Sundays ago, and we were talking about lots of things, and something came up, and I'm like, oh my gosh, these characters in our play have this argument, and one says this and one says that, and this is exactly the issue he was bringing up. And it was a great way to insert like a little drop about the play, but how connected it is to real conversation in real life. Like, people face these struggles, people have these arguments, and what's the resolution? What might be the resolution for one set of people might not be the resolution that another path take. You might you might agree or not agree with the path they take, but you can feel the energy behind the choices being made.
Yeah. I mean, for me, no one is fully right. Like you said earlier, right? No one's fully right. No one's fully wrong. It is not, and I think it's important for people to know that it is not a golden, beautifully wrapped gay couple, just like it is not a golden, beautifully wrapped bigot, and it's not right. So it's like everyone's very complicated. And I think for me, one of the themes is who at the other end is going to do better and who's going to stay the same. Right. That's kind of like what I feel that I leave with at the end of the play is, after this purge, right? Because there is a cathartic purge of emotions and history between these characters, and like who's going to do better and who's going to stay the same.
And it's not necessarily clear at the end of the play where that's going to go. And that's what I love about kind of ambiguous endings, is that it has room to be anything.
Yeah. And like you said, quoting the play, there's that Shelley moment of, burning the aisle down or reaching across the aisle all the time. I'm like, that's part of my lexicon now.
But the initial statement that Damon makes, was, I'm tired of kicking everyone out. When do you make that decision to have a teachable moment, or extend the grace to someone who's maybe behaving in a way that that is really bigoted? And at one point do you just say, gonna burn that aisle down? Like, and for each person that tipping point is going to be a different place.
Yeah, well, it's the emotional labor, right? It's like, what's the emotional labor? When are you willing to put it in? Who are you willing to put it in with? And I think each character asks themselves that question and makes different decisions depending on the circumstances of, this container of the play. It might be different with other characters and with other situations, but in this moment, it's kind of like, all right, how fraught am I at this moment with what is going on in the piece?
And it's not just like that one moment. It is we talk about cumulative trauma or cumulative stress, and you have to remember, this is my social psychology coming out.
Please.
Each character comes with context, comes with this background that you only learn over the unfoldment of the play. And then by the end, yes, you realize this is not just one moment. It's many moments built on top of so many other moments. And that final, release of emotions and cathartic moment is not just that one thing. It's all the things over all the years, and not just one's own trauma, but the collective. You're not just holding your own, you're holding everyone who's in your intersectionalities, everyone who's shared whatever trauma your tribe has faced. You have that layer upon layer. And so you may hit a breaking point sooner than you might expect.
I just wrote all this down because it's true, right? It's a collective trauma. The play also asks a lot of the actors when it comes to what they bring on to the role and onto the stage, and how much of the collective trauma and the emotional trauma, personal trauma, are we willing to bring forward through these characters, and in the healthiest way possible, right? Which is something that's very important at different translations. So like, how can we as healthy as possible, bring our intersectionality into these roles. And I think that's what makes also these characters pop, is that we are been very lucky with an amazing group of actors. And even though some actors have changed throughout the years or the editions, each person that steps into these roles brings a new richness to it, which is so appreciative and wonderful and magical, and why theater will always be an important medium. So speaking of different editions, you obviously saw the New York workshop and were involved with it. And then you were also able to swing with us to good old Dublin, which was a different production physically, right? The theater was very different from what we had in New York, but also the audience was different. And it was so great to have that perspective. And one of the things that I love about traveling a show is that your friends aren't there to tell you it's great. So the feedback I get from full on strangers, I actually really take it in, because I know that there's not there aren't all these other things that might be changing their perception of what you're seeing, like friendship and knowing who's on stage and stuff like that. So tell me what your experience was, New York versus Dublin.
Yeah, two things stand out about the changeover from our workshop production in New York City and the festival version of Dublin and subsequent versions. And one is just the edits that had to be made just to make it festival length. And so we went from a 110 minute, one intermission production to a 75 minute, no intermission production. And while, there were favorite scenes that had to get truncated, David did an amazing job at editing and getting to the heart of the matter and trimming in such a way that I think it was even more powerful. I mean, it was a powerful play, but I think it packed a bigger punch because it didn't give you a break. You were with these characters from the beginning to the end, no break. And I think it was just that much more powerful for that edit. The audiences were quite different. I think in New York City, we kind of live in this almost a bubble most of the time of acceptance and not tolerating the intolerant, so to speak. And we saw that audiences really love to hate the character Claire. They whether it was after the show, they would complain about her, or even sometimes audible outbursts during the show, and gasps at what she would say sometimes. And that was more nuanced. The reactions were more nuanced in Dublin. I feel like many audience members felt her struggle and could identify either friends or family members who traversed her path, like had similar kinds of struggles with their traditions and how to open up past that and going back and forth. Like you said, she wasn't evil the whole time. You don't see this like pure evil person. You see a struggle. That's why I use the word struggle to describe her. She's struggling with her own issues on top of the issues she's coping with that get projected onto her cousins, right? Like there's a big projection happening there. And her struggle to figure out her feelings there. And I think even if the audience didn't agree with her choices, they found a little more compassion for her struggle in making those choices. They might not have condoned her choice, but they could have empathy for where she was coming from.
Beautiful.
That actually stood out, like as a really big difference between the two reactions.
It's so interesting you mentioned that, because it's similar to my experience with Claire. And even in rehearsal, I'll always be like, I don't know, I feel like everyone needs to like chill a little with a character, because my experience as a Caribbean immigrant who's queer was, and one of our themes or the big hashtag we use is tolerance is not acceptance, right? It's not enough. But I myself went through that journey from I'd give anything for tolerance being enough, to in the New York bubble, realizing, you know what, it's not enough. It's not. So I myself went through that. And I think that is, like you said, taking it out of the context of all or nothing liberalism, which I think is part of it, right? It's like, again, burn the aisle down or reach across, right? And it changes. One day I'm tired of reaching across, and one day I'm like, I'm going to reach across with this person or this day or this issue.
Yeah.
So I always had a lot of empathy towards Claire. And I think another thing that the play shows is the lack of communication. And what is that familiar lack of communication that is caused because there was not safety? So, and bubble, and the fact that these conversations that are happening in this play at such a heightened state could have happened at 5, 10, 40 notches less if there had been a healthy communication within this family. And this is where religion has a big part into how this family operates and communicates. And that's a lot of that is in that kind of like last scene, which is, it's kind of like in rehearsal, we always say, this is where you take the mask off. But what has created this mask, and is it all on Claire's shoulders? Is it all Claire's fault that this mask exists? No. At the same time, it's 2021, right? It wasn't written in 2021, but like, it's where we are now. So like you have access to look beyond, and that's where the privilege comes in, right? Being allowed to live with this mask very comfortably as who Claire is in the world.
Exactly.
So so many things that we could talk about.
I know we could go on and on. We could talk longer about the play than the play actually.
And one of that trade of that Gay City News review that fully understood Claire for me was like, I remember we were walking, I don't know if it was to the theater or somewhere else, all of us, because we were fortunate enough to find housing very near to the theater, and the walk was lovely. And we were walking, and we found it, and we like stopped to read it on the street. And I think the first thing I said was like, they get her, they understood her. And you think you want to be like fully on the side of the gay couple, but for me as a director, I needed everyone to love hate everyone.
Yes. And like when you asked me my word for Damon and I said opinionated, it wasn't a pejorative statement. He exerts his opinions throughout the play, and it's fine to have opinions. I mean, I know people who prefer people who opine, but that stands out for him. Like it matters to him. He takes a stand in many places, and the perception of someone who has opinions could be they could come across as arrogant. They could come across as petulant. They could come across as many different ways. What is our perception of that, and how does that play out then in the family dynamic?
Yeah, and who's right and who's fully wrong when it comes to opinions, right? Opinions are not facts. So who is, when it comes to, we delve into kind of like boycott culture, and not full on cancel culture, but definitely boycott culture. And like in that scene, that moment where you're like, oh, and I speak as I always. So for myself, I'm like,
Antonia, where'd you go? Don't leave me here. Yes, we do talk about boycott culture a little bit in the play. Oh, there you are. You're back.
Studio, but I'm back. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Mercury Retrograde. I'm so glad that we're still alive, even though that happened.
Yeah, we're still going. Yeah, so it does kind of.
I was not talking about boycotting YouTube or StreamYard, in case that's why you all kicked me out. It's about other products. Yeah, but what I was saying was, I do like, okay, I won't buy that product because I don't agree with it supporting. Like I won't go to that chicken sandwich place because I don't like where that money's going.
Yeah.
But then to see it in a heightened state in the scene with these characters, I was like, oh, but
takes on a different flavor and a different
right?
energy.
Yeah, and it's almost like Facebook comments being put to life versus being read, right? And that's where you go like, oh, maybe take a chill pill, or no, maybe you're right, depending on when I see it and how I'm feeling.
Yeah.
And where I am on this train, like you said, it being 75 minutes, which now what happened with Belgrade is we were given the opportunity to go back to what we used to have, but we love so much what we found in the 70-minute version of the show that we found that beautiful middle ground of making it a 90-minute piece, still with no intermission, and just being like, you are in it, you are strapped for danger. You are in it for the long haul when it comes to this ride that feels like 30 minutes of action.
You are on a roller coaster of emotions with this play.
Totally. So let's talk a little bit about the logistics. I don't know that everyone knows necessarily what a tour manager is. It's also not, I do want to clarify that is tour manager within the container of what we're doing and who we are, because tour manager also means many a thing. And something that we are striving for at Different Translation, with a lot of non-binary peeps being part of the company also, is to create our own definitions of things and to fluidly find out what these tasks are. So in the world of what we're doing and where we're going, you are being our intrepid tour manager, and tell us what that means and how complicated it is. I'm ready for a headache. I'm here.
Yeah. I think it's important to acknowledge that our creative team is wearing many hats. We're the co-producers, but we've also taken on many other tasks that have to be done. And I've stepped up to the task of what we're labeling tour manager. I think it's more a hospitality
goddess,
concierge goddess. I like that.
Yes.
So I've been arranging lodging and coordinating with the Italy team on lodging there while we're there, and coordinating our flights and our bags and all that yummy stuff, like to make sure we get there and have bags for our props and they don't get left behind, you know? While we're there and coordinating.
Ooh, sorry, I just checked on our website and it actually is live on its own. So if you are actually just on differenttranslation.com, you can see us live as well. So, and also I would like to mention that the festival has been extremely gracious, and part of the package to go to Italy with OnStage Festival has been that they're providing some lodging and some travel within Italy, which is really, really wonderful. And I also need to mention, and I want to make sure that I always have to read it because I don't want to F it up. It is Mercury retrograde, but also the fact that we have a glorious grant that is covering the flights to get there, which is pretty amazing, and some of the per diems and some of the lodging that's not fully covered by the festival. So this engagement of the Baby Monitor is supported by Mid-Atlantic Arts through USArtists International in partnership with the National Endowment for the Arts, the Andrew W. Mellon Foundation, and the Howard Gilman Foundation. It is such a huge grant. We are so honored. Thank you so much. We do still have to raise double that amount. $15,000
left in our budget to raise.
We're on the road to it. So if you just go to the GoFundMe link, I believe it's part of the description of this video. I will go in and post it again. Please donate. We have until basically November 10th, right? Because we're leaving on the 13th to raise all these funds. So if you know someone that can give, if what you can do is share any type of grace, we accept. We are so grateful. So I'm plugging it now, and I'm also plugging it again at the end. What has been the trickiest thing when it comes to tour management so far?
Well, it was fun kind of trying to like accommodate rooms, because you know, when you search on Airbnb, sometimes you got these interesting room configurations where it's like one king bed and one futon. I'm like, I gotta fit 4 people in there. And I'm like, we're kind of an adult team. We're not like young teenagers who can all cram in one bed together. So finding space for 10 adults to have their own bed.
At
It's
least,
kind of
right?
funny. It made me laugh. I take all these things with, I have to take them with humor because otherwise I'd probably cry.
Yeah, no, we can't. And just so everyone gets kind of like a sense of this adventure, is that we land, next day we tech, we perform, we have a day off, then we get on another plane, land, tech, perform in Cagliari, then we get on another plane. So it is like full on jet setter performer life on a off budget.
And yes, and making sure that we don't miss any connections is kind of like, yeah, okay, I want to make sure we have enough time to get from this airport to that bus to.
Yeah, and David and I have to get back to Santa Fe, New Mexico, which is where we are right now. So the logistics of that at the end too, it's a lot. There's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot that goes into making this happen. And I we're so grateful, Anne, that you have taken on this mammoth of a task to make sure that we're all comfortable and set and in our best selves to be able to deliver this show.
Right. We have such a great team. We have such a great cast and creatives, and it's something I can do to help make things smoother, that they don't have to worry about the logistics. Someone else it's kind of like a wedding planner. You give it all to them, let them deal with it so that you can focus on the things you need to focus on.
Truly.
And I think it's important because, we've had such a crazy year and a half of very little live theater, and all these folks have been either unemployed, out of business, not being able to do their soul's work. And this is an opportunity that to get back to that soul's work. It's meaningful work. I think of all the things that we did during our downtime in the pandemic, a lot of them had to do with creative, artistic things. And let's pay these folks back. Let's give them the opportunities to get back on the stage, get back into the spaces where their hearts are singing and doing what brings them joy. And the only way it's going to do it is with everyone's help, right? It takes a village.
It does take a village. And I think a lot of what, like you mentioned, a lot that happened for us creatives during the pandemic was our worth was questioned. Mm-hmm. Our meaning was taken away. And we all know that we are beautiful souls and spirits having a human experience, and that what we do is not who we are. At the same time, what we do is our conduit to share our beautiful soul that's having a human experience. So that was kind of taken away from us. And we found some creative ways of keeping it going, but it just wasn't enough because it was missing that ingredient of just that exchange of energy. And even though we're exchanging energy right now, it is not the same than when we're exchanging it in person. It's not as palpable. It is not as strong. It is not as healing. And so this is why this is very important for everyone involved and everyone that's coming to see the show. So speaking of seeing the show and making sure that we are hospitalied, which is not a word, but it is now. What excites you the most about going to Italy, aside from the wine and the pasta?
Aside from it being Italy? I can't wait to see the Italian audience reaction to the show. Is it going to be more like New York? Is it going to be more like Dublin? I'm excited to see what unfolds for us, for the show, for the cast.
Yeah, same. Me too. One of the things that we have learned, it's a new dexterity, but it's I loved our set for New York. It was so cool, simple, but effective. And it was just so lovely to be able to create that. And then when we went to Dublin, the configuration was completely different. I mean, we were on a stage that was a character of its own. It was very loud. It was very small. And we had to completely reconfigure the production to fit that. Yeah. And then when Belgrade happened, it was like, you have all this room again. At the same time, but we're traveling and we don't have like Taylor Swift's budget to travel the full set. So we had to get creative again and find what that meant for us, right? And like there were things we found in Dublin that we enjoyed, and there were things we missed from New York, and then we were able to find something brand new. And here we are again, and just figuring out like new ways to present this show that I think will have it feels like each country and each experience we keep a little nugget of what we learned, which I love. So it makes the show different every time, and it's not necessarily a pre-packaged tour experience where it looks or feels the same. It's gonna look and feel different, and so I'm very curious what that'll do to an audience, what that'll do to us as creatives, and what we will learn through it, and what we will learn through the new members of the cast, which will not be revealed today, will be revealed in the future. So thank you so much, Anne, for being part of our second edition of the Baby Monitor Talks. If you were here live, thank you. If you're rewatching, thank you. And we're gonna plug again that we are on the road to 15K. That means we still have to raise $15,000. And at the same time, and we were talking about this in one of our creative partner meetings, we are so grateful to have the opportunity to raise these funds for this amazing show. So if you want to be a creative angel and be part of this journey with us, I fully believe that the moment that you give back to a creative project, you become a creative yourself. So I am declaring all of you, not just angels, but all of you that contribute and donate to our cause, become creatives at that moment, because we are bringing you with us to this production. And because of you, it's happening. So again, we are doing it through GoFundMe. Thank you, GoFundMe peeps, for making it so easy to raise funds. It's so wonderful. And also I want to thank StreamYard for being the conduit for this live session to happen, and YouTube and everywhere else where you're watching it. Thank you again. And thank you for giving us the opportunity to present a show that puts up acceptance, puts up and shows into the mirror and the glass, what it means to be an ally, what it means to be a parent, what it means to be a modern family, the complexities of surrogacy, the complexities of colorism within two characters that are from the Caribbean having an immigrant experience in the US, and how that changes things as to the different dynamics they had when they were in the Caribbean versus the dynamics they have now in the US. And so many other things. Those are like the things that are popping up today at this moment. But thank you. And thank you again, Anne-Marie, for being here.
My pleasure.
We love you. All right, we are ending this broadcast.
All right, ciao.
Ciao.